Hello folks, so you're here because you like either Khazan, dragons, DLC, myself, or a pick and mix of the above, to which I've got very good news because this video is absolutely rammed with all four. If you are new around here, then I've made it my life's goal to stalk Khazan and report on anything and everything I deem is interesting, and today we do have one of the most interesting things possible, at least as far as overgrown little boys like myself are concerned, and that would be dragons. For anyone who has played Khazan, you'll know that there is one single dragon type enemy, and that would of course be the berserk dragon Hismar, but apart from this, there are currently no other dragons within Khazan. However, within DNF/DFO lore, Hismar does have two brothers, named Skasa and Sparatzi, and together they are the three dragon children of Pakal. Now, I've never played DNF/DFO, and despite how easy wikis are to read, I'll be honest and say the DNF/DFO rabbit hole is not somewhere I wish to revisit anytime soon. I did get lost a couple of times, so I'll do my best to keep this video flowing, but I am by no means an expert in DNF/DFO lore, which I'll now just start referring to as DNF. But with that out of the way, let's dive into the good stuff, and beginning with Skasa, we need to revisit this video that I did make not so long ago, where I basically touched on some cut content that I did stumble across for Khazan. Well, at the time, I didn't pin this dragon as Skasa due to the colours used and being unfamiliar. However, after a brief discussion within the comments and a little bit more research, it was obvious to see that this is absolutely Skasa. Now, to just further reinforce this, outside of the obvious identical features, Skasa is fought within Skasa's lair, in which the other two dragons are fought within the Berserk Dragon's Destroyed Palace and the Death Dragon's Soul Palace, respectively. Additionally, Skasa is the only dragon of the three to have hatchlings accompany them during the fight within DNF. And naturally, we can see from this clip right here that this definitely resembles a lair, and we have numerous hatchlings flying around too. So we can say with almost absolute certainty that this is Skasa within Skasa's lair, surrounded by Skasa's hatchlings. So, if we take a deeper look into him, we can see that the two listed regions are Skasa's Lair and Storm Pass, to which it says that Storm Pass is the entrance to Mount Thundermine, and this is where Skasa's Lair is located. Storm Pass should sound familiar to all of you Khazan enthusiasts out there, because Storm Pass is one of the first locations within Khazan. So, with this information in mind, it would heavily suggest that Skasa was intended to be a boss within the first region of the game, but was either cut due to scheduling issues, or cut due to eventually being repurposed later on down the line. But we can confirm that Skasa, his lair, and hatchlings were at least modelled and implemented into the game to some degree. Now, on a not so obvious but completely related note, I want to briefly mention Project Barbecue, which I briefly covered some time back. Anyway, with this trailer, we have early versions of Khazan that were eventually changed, but within these early versions, we can see female character models that do appear to be playable, and with that being Neeple's initial intent in mind, we can hazard a guess that some of these previous assets were potentially repurposed for the recent female Khazan update, considering she did require animations, all of the armor sets remodeled, etc. I could be wrong, but it would make sense that Neeple are reaching into their stockpile of content and repurposing it, hence why we've seen so much quality of life, additional content, and changes over the past 3 months. Okay, now back to Skasa. With everything just previously mentioned in mind, it's even more feasible that Skasa will eventually be repurposed for future DLC, because if DLC is on the horizon, why wouldn't they use content they already have? Especially content as exciting as Skasa. It does beg the possibility that he may have been removed due to being too valuable for so early in the game. If future DLC ties into the main campaign, then we may find ourselves revisiting locations like Storm Pass later on to face stronger threats that appear through main or side quests. Now, if I were to nutshell the theory here, then basically, Neeple have been incredibly active with updates and additional content since Khazan's launch. Some of this new content suggests that previously cut content was used to help speed up the process, and if that is the case, then we can assume that other cut content, such as Skasa, will receive the same treatment. I kind of feel like it's one of those theories where I'm either going to be completely bang on the money or couldn't be further off target. This all, of course, comes down to whether we do receive future DLC content or not, but for now, nothing has been confirmed, and we really only have Neeple's treatment of Khazan to go off. I've said this before, but I am convinced they are cooking something big in the background whilst they maintain traction with these regular updates. But honestly, I could just be too deep into this by now. My greatest asset in this is all of the knowledge acquired over the past 3 months of covering Khazan, but it is also a curse where I have begun to look into every detail and pick apart everything, if this video hadn't made that obvious already. Anyway, back to the dragons. We don't really know anything else about Skasa within Khazan, and as far as Sparatzi is concerned, aside from being the third brother of the two dragons that kind of make an appearance within Khazan, there is no footage or mention of him at all. But if we were to ever receive Skasa within future DLC, I would imagine that the developers intend to include Sparatzi at some point too. Now, as far as Nepal and additional content are concerned, I wouldn't want to place any bets on what is coming next. No one could have anticipated female Khazan, but with the recent hype for Stellar Blade and female Khazan possibly being easily implemented due to reused assets, then it would appear they have attempted to take advantage of the hype, and who can really blame them? I've seen lots of positive feedback for female Khazan, and overall, the game is slightly better off for it. We do have a small indication of what the next few updates will hold, the biggest being a gear tier upgrade system, such as upgrading epic gear to legendary, and a weapon scaling adjustment system that seems to indicate we can adjust and or upgrade B and C ratings on weapons. A solid 6 or so weeks ago, we were given an outline of almost all of the previous updates, but we currently have no such outline for the near or distant future, so if and when we do, you can bet your life savings I'll be covering it as soon as possible. Nepal do typically have a pretty transparent attitude, and I hope the lack of outline isn't due to the lack of future updates. They have previously been quiet like this a few times before, so if the pattern does continue, we can expect much more news over the coming weeks. Anyway, that is just about it for this video, folks. I am adding Wuchang Fallen Feathers onto the channel as of the 24th of July, and I fully intend to crank out a bunch of guide and news videos over the months following, so do keep an eye out for that. I do, of course, have a range of guides and news videos on the channel, so do feel free to stop on by and check things out. Otherwise, thanks for watching, folks, and until next time, peace.